welcome to the Warner Brothas podcast. My name is Keenan, joined by my brother Kyle. I know it's been a little bit since we did last week. We had some things, but chilling. How's it going, Kyle?
Took a week off. We're back.
Absolutely. I'm going to jump into a question that I talked to Joe DeZazzo about something that was interesting to me, and I want your thoughts.
Sure.
So first, what does it mean, like, when someone says they have a bag offensively? To you, what does that mean?
That means they have an array of moves offensively. They got an array of moves, basically.
Array of moves, so there's like different ways you can.
You
so basically,
you got a variety of crossovers. Like, if we're gonna shout out Joe DeZazzo, let me shout out Chris Mitchell. Chris Mitchell's got a bag for sure. That's someone that's in our pickup basketball group. He's got an array of offensive moves. D-Roy's another one. You know what I mean? Like, you got an array of skills. Like, if you're gonna compare that, we mentioned this guy a lot in here in the NBA. Kyrie would be the go-to, right? Like, he's just got an unlimited bag. KD's got a bag. So yeah, an array of offensive moves, an offensive repertoire.
Okay. All right, and so my question to you is this. I'm going to actually kind of segue into it with something. What do you think? Does LeBron have a bag, and does LeBron have a big bag to you?
First of all, don't ever ask me if LeBron has a big bag ever again. LeBron has a bag. I think every...
Big bag? That's not crazy. That's just bag.
It just sounds
just a bag. I don't think it's pause-worthy.
I mean, just don't ever ask me if someone has a big bag ever again. But... LeBron has a bag. LeBron has a bag. Mm-hmm. Is his bag as deep as someone like KD or Kyrie's? No. But it's there. I mean, he's definitely... It's funny. Like, he's the all-time leading scorer, but it doesn't seem like he's got, like, the scoring package that, like a Kobe, Kyrie, KD, Curry, doesn't seem like he's got as much moves as them or as many moves as them. But he's definitely got a bag. I mean, he's just so strong and overpowering, he doesn't really need the handle and such. I mean, his handle's definitely improved. And just the kind of athlete he is, it's weird. He looks a little mechanical when he's dribbling and such, and when he's, like, doing size-up moves compared to, a guard like Kyrie or Curry. But, I mean, it's LeBron. I mean, if he needed to develop an insane handle, he would. You know what I mean? Like, just like Giannis. Giannis looks funny doing moves, but at the end of the day, his handle's probably much better than most of the leagues. You know what I mean? I mean,
so
when you're
how
Giannis,
it looks also can go into it.
I guess. I mean, like I was saying about Giannis, like him and LeBron are kind of the same. They don't really need many moves, right, to get to their spot. They can kind of just catch you off balance, do a little hesitation, and then boom, they're where they need to be. Also Euro steps, that can be part of your bag. So I guess power and shit like that is a part of Giannis's and LeBron's bag. Their offensive repertoire is just not as deep as someone like KD's, Kyrie's, MJ, Kobe, flat out scorers like that, which is weird, again, to not call LeBron a flat out scorer. But, I think he's in line with someone like Giannis and Shaq where their athleticism comes into play, But as we've seen with LeBron, his athleticism has faded, and he's still a top notch athlete. But, he's got a nice fadeaway. He's got a sidestep three. All that, which, so
LeBron's
his bag's
an
definitely
interesting
deeper
one
than
for
Giannis. His bag's definitely deeper than Giannis, so, yeah.
LeBron's is interesting for me because when you're talking offensive repertoire between, like, I'm just going to bring up KD because that was one of the names you said. Mm-hmm. Like, KD obviously can shoot. KD's a better shooter than LeBron is from three for sure. Mm-hmm. I would say LeBron has as much range as KD. LeBron, like, that's the one thing that I think people underrate a little bit with LeBron. Like, LeBron's
always had range.
After Steph, after Lillard, Honestly, Clay showed that he's had range too. Like after those couple, Trae Young's up there as well. Like LeBron's up there with anybody else range wise, just because he's so powerful. And he's actually
always loved the deep three for whatever reason.
Yeah, and he's pretty accurate with it. But like, so I was gonna say because Kevin Durant. I was going to say, because like, with LeBron, he can turn over the left shoulder, he can turn over the right shoulder, he can drop step, he can get to the basket, he has a pull-up, he now has a pull-up mid-range jump shot, has a side step three, as you said. He just, I guess, I was going to say, because he has everything, but it's just weird, because when you're talking, like, bag, you would never put him in, like, the upper echelon, but he has everything. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean,
so it's like sometimes it kind of can. It's just kind of like, what do you exactly mean by it? Because if it's like being able to do certain things, like LeBron can do damn near everything. There's barely not much he can't do. It's both hands at the basket, it's fading over both shoulders, as I said. It's the mid range. It's now the 3-point shot. Like, especially as we've talked about, like, that 2016 LeBron, like, pretty much that one, what's consistent with all that stuff, there's not really a part of the floor he can't touch and be effective with it offensively. So it's kind of like, but then when you think about it, you're like, okay, he's not Kyrie because he doesn't have that in and out, hezzy, step back, and then get to, like, how he gets it. But, like, it's weird because it's just as effective. It's just not as pretty.
Right.
That makes sense.
Like, to think of someone of the past, it would be like Kevin Garnett. He could do anything on the floor in a probably a more fluid way than LeBron, but just didn't do it. You know what I mean? Like, he not relied, but his game was very mid-range centric. He probably could have got to the rim more. Probably could have used his handle more. Like, he would have been most effective in a Draymond Green type role, but his teams didn't allow that. And LeBron...
especially 08 KG too, and Draymond. My goodness gracious! I only say 08. I mean, 04 KG is a phenomenal. That year was phenomenal. We might be talking about that later in the series. But no, don't get me wrong. I understand how great KG was, but I just mean just because he was a little more aging, so his offensive game, he wasn't looking to actually put like a bunch of points on the board. Him in that like pass first. Because he had better vision than people would give him credit for, because he didn't really see it as much. So
yeah, any version of
he would be really cool in that.
Any version of really KG's career, he should have looked to score more. You know what I mean? He had all the tools, but he's a very unselfish player, and you know, I mean, he's still a Hall of Famer nonetheless. But no, he's just someone who he could have been super dominant, and you know, it's kind of a sign of the times too. Like, people would never play him at the 5, even though he's probably taller than Shaq and Tim Duncan. I think KG's like 7'3", I really do. But they list him as 6'11".
He's at least yeah, because I mean, he was like an inch taller than Tim Duncan, and Tim Duncan they always listed as 6'11" for some reason. He was easily 7'1", and he was like an inch taller than Timmy, so at least like 7'2" roughly.
Yeah, I think there's a video. I remember a video back in the day of the throwback Celtics. We had Shaq. It was Shaq, Nate Robinson, I think Paul Pierce, and KG. They were all like dancing to some Rick Ross song or some shit like that. And like KG's behind Shaq, right? And Shaq's 7'1", and you can see like the top of KG's head over Shaq. Like, he's just like towering over Shaq. You're like, and Shaq's 7'1".
You're like, wait a second, what?
KG's listed as 6'11". You're like, no, this dude's like at least 7'2", 7'3".
Yes,
and just an incredibly
the same thing when they listed
athlete.
a KD at 6'9" when he came in. I was like, yeah, I'm sure he's 6'9", guys.
Is that right?
Like,
no, don't get me started on Kevin Garnett. I could do like a whole breakdown of his game and just how he moved as a player and everything. I love KG, love Kevin Garnett.
Okay, fun fact. Fun fact.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, no, we were just talking about, like, because he sent this thing where a guy pours water for, like, Kobe and LeBron.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
And, like, it did that. And so he was like, I agree with most of it. And he said most, and I was like, yeah. And I said the two things that I would have I'll give LeBron a little bit more of was killer instinct and offensive bag, because I just feel like LeBron has more to his game than people give credit for. I think Kobe has a bigger bag, but I think that LeBron can do everything. And killer instinct-wise, I understand that it had to be developed in him rather than Kobe, who came in with it, as we've seen, but that doesn't negate the fact that he still has it. I would have just given. I'm not saying he's not. Kobe doesn't have more of that killer in him, but like LeBron has definitely shown to be a killer.
Took LeBron a minute,
sure.
But yeah, you don't want to face LeBron in a Game 7 or nothing like that. So any sort of elimination game at all.
Wait, sorry, say that again.
I said you don't want to face LeBron in a Game 7 or any sort of elimination.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely not. He might be like, take Bill Russell out of it because he's fake. Other than that, is there any better Game 7 player really you can think of? Like, there's people in the conversation, obviously. I mean, like, Mike's not there because he really didn't get to many Game 7s. I think he played in 2, once against the Knicks and once against the Pacers. And then the Pistons, Pistons, but like, he didn't play in too many like Game 7s, so we don't really know. He did have do or die games, obviously, against the Cavs and things, but Game 7, LeBron is... What?
I think MJ might have dropped like 55 or 54 against the Knicks in a Game 7. I could be wrong about that, but...
I'm not 100% sure on that one. I think he did go nuts, though. But yeah, I was just like LeBron, you obviously Game 7 of the finals, you had the 29-point triple-double. Game 7, that's against the Warriors. Game 7 against the Spurs, you had 37 and 12, hit that big shot at the elbow to ice it. Like, you can go through a lot of these Game 7s for LeBron, and they're really, you don't want to see him because he is a killer. Just because he doesn't take the last shot as much as other people has. But anyways, that was kind of where the conversation had stemmed from. But we can move on from LeBron in the offensive repertoire to let me move into it. I've been so excited about it. Did you watch the Women's College Championship?
I absolutely did, yes. Let me start by saying I did not watch the men's, but I watched the women's. Yes. Shouts to UConn.
Okay, I watched. Yeah.
Shouts to UConn.
Yeah, they need to.
When I did watch college basketball, that's one of my teams, and I'm a ride or die for UConn's women's hoop. So we're coming for LSU. We're coming for LSU. We're coming for Caitlin Clark and all that next year. But no, I absolutely watched the women's game. They've got a true star,
yeah, and
Caitlin Clark. I cannot wait for Caitlin Clark to get to the WNBA. I can't wait for
it. There's so much star power, and like Angel Reese is a star, Caitlin Clark is a supernova, Paige Bueckers, who people haven't obviously seen this year, next year is going to go nuts. I already know, because they're all in the same class, and Paige was the number one talked about coming in freshman year, and she won the most outstanding player in college, and they got to the Final Four that year. But anyways, so I love this for women's college basketball because it's perfect, and for the women's game just in general. Like, they've actually gained spectators. They had, like, I think 10 million tuned into the championship game, which is crazy, which I think
believe
they said
they've
was more than any game in the
I think you were about to say the
2021
same
finals.
thing. I think they outviewed any NBA game this year, from what I understand. I mean, 10 million, yeah that'll do it. But I am incredibly excited to see next year. First of all, like where Caitlin Clark goes with her junior year, like if she can take them back to the championship game, because they were completely overmatched by LSU. You could tell LSU definitely had a deeper team. They've, from what I understand, always been a pretty good Big Ten team. Right? They're still in the Big Ten conference. Mm-hmm. So I think they've always done well, always perennially made the tournament. And LSU's
that was the first time they've ever been there.
Yeah, for sure. And LSU, who's their coach? Can't think of her fucking name.
Kim Mulkey.
Kim Mulkey. She's a big deal. Like, she won a championship at Baylor. So she's, if not she's not the best coach because it's Gino, but she's probably the second best coach in the NCAA for women's.
Pat Summitt.
I mean, right now.
Pat. Oh, sorry. I thought you meant ever. I was saying Pat Summitt would be.
Ever.
Right
Pat
now,
Summitt,
she'd probably be. It'd be her and Don Staley. Along
Staley,
with
absolutely.
Gino would probably be your best right now. But go on.
So yeah, I mean they were overmatched in that regard, and just how, if you just look at the highlights, you see Caitlin Clark pulling up from 40. It's incredible. She's got the Steph Curry factor, and KD does this a lot, where you get the inbound, you go up the court, no pass, you make a move on your defender and drain a three in their grill. That's insane. That's an insane level of shooting. I don't care what level you're at, and you literally only see Curry do that.
It's from 28.
Yeah, exactly. You see Curry do that. You maybe see Dame and Kyrie do that in the NBA. And KD, more so, he'll just dribble up and pull up on you because he can, because he's 6'11", right? And for her, she did that multiple times in that game, where she'd go up, make a move, step back, throw up a ridiculous shot, and it's net. And, multiple times she and a couple of her bench players brought it back. They got some post players. Like, they got nice pieces, and she's crazy unselfish. Like, her passing ability's right there, too. She is very reminiscent. I mean, it's so cheap to say because I'm sure a million people compare to Steph Curry, but she really is very reminiscent of his game to the core, as far as the passing, as far as, just the skill all around. She's incredibly fun to watch.
Absolutely. Caitlin Clark is going to be one of the biggest reasons why, hopefully it ends up being one of the biggest reasons why the WNBA becomes more and more popular by the year. It's been gaining traction a little bit here and there. Obviously, it helps when you have, like, Vegas. Obviously, Vegas winning last year, that helps because Vegas is such a big market. And you're able to have a team, the only sports team really out there. Obviously, the Raiders just went there, but the only sports team to win a championship out there, I believe. I don't think any hockey team has. If they have, I'm sorry. But anyways, so that's big. Obviously, you have Caitlin Clark there. Angel Reese obviously made headlines because she did the John Cena "You Can't See Me" and then pointed out the finger as well to Caitlin Clark, and people were outraged about that, as if Caitlin Clark didn't do that to Hailey Van Lith the game before, or 2 games before.
People were way more upset about it.
People
were way more upset about it than Caitlin Clark herself was. She didn't even care. She was like, "Yeah, whatever."
Yeah, she didn't care.
Live fucking lives. So wait, so she did that to an opposing player? She didn't. I thought she did that to her bench, Caitlin Clark, originally. No, that was towards.
Okay, so nope. Elite Eight, they're playing Louisville. Hailey Van Lith is the other star player on that team. They were going back and forth that game. There's a clip of her looking at Hailey Van Lith. You could see it. She said, "Shut up, you're down 15." Like, basically, don't talk to me, you're a down 15. Because Hailey Van Lith will talk all game, every game, to anybody. And then, after going to the bench, she was walking by and did the John Cena "You Can't See Me" to Hailey Van Lith, who was walking by. And then to South Carolina, she was waving off people like, we don't care about her shooting threes from the outside. Obviously, she had 41 against them, too. So that's why Angel Reese went back at her and was like, "You can't see me." And then, pointed to the ring finger like, "Yeah, and, we dropped 102 on you. This is what we do." So that's why it's, why is it a problem? Caitlin Clark did that to Hailey Van Lith, and Angel Reese did it to her. And Caitlin's like, "Yeah, no, it's fine. She's a tremendous player, because she is." Stupid.
Yeah, the media is whack. Media's whack. Social media is whack. People overblew it. I will say this, because I did see the full clip. If you just saw the clip of Angel Reese doing it to Caitlin Clark, it doesn't look like much, right? I did see the full clip where she's doing it for a good 10 seconds. As they're winning the championship, as time's running down. I'm looking at that, I'm like, it's kind of whack. But you know what? She's a 20-year-old student athlete. Whatever. It's not a big deal. But when you're doing it for 10, 15 seconds as the clock's running down, kind of looks like that other player's living a little rent-free in your head. That's what it looks like a little bit.
Yeah.
And I thought, and again, she's 20, so whatever. She's living her life. She just won a fucking national championship.
She's chilling.
But she said one of her reasons for it was Caitlin, as you said, Caitlin Clark waving off South Carolina. She said the disrespect for the other teams. I'm like, since when do people? ever care what someone does to another team, especially a conference rival. I thought that was a little corny because I'm like, you really bothered by what someone's doing to another team? But whatever, like in the spirit of just trash talk, though, I'm all for it. Like, I don't know how the fuck that was an issue. It should have never been an issue. I love it. I love everything to do where women's college basketball is right now. And again, I'm not watching a ton of college basketball in general, but right now, women's college basketball feels like where the men's college basketball game was, I don't know, at least 10 years ago when it was semi-popular. Women's college basketball definitely seems, at this moment, more popular or more talked about than the men's game. I could be wrong about that, but from my view, it seems like the women's game's up here. And that's going to do wonders for the WNBA once Caitlin Clark, once Haley Van Lith, once Angel Reese, and the rest of them, keep coming up. A lot of these girls.
That's all the same class too. Paige Bueckers with them
crazy.
too. That's all the same class.
That's amazing.
That's literally like LeBron. That's LeBron, Bosch, Wade, Melo in the same class for them. Like, I mean, obviously, that's what it is for. I think
and they're all incredibly skilled. All incredibly skilled, and that's not to take anything from the women of the past who are in the WNBA right now, because there's, you mentioned Vegas, like Kelsey Plum. I think didn't Vegas just sign Candace Parker?
Yeah, I watched Candace Parker. I was on Draymond Green's show. She kind of talked about that too. But yeah, no, they're loaded. It's going to be Vegas and the Liberty. The Liberty, they got Breanna Stewart already having right. Jacquel Jones, who was an MVP 2 years ago. Like, it's going to be, and like that Sabrina girl, I never can pronounce her last name, but
I know it's
that's the Liberty, and then the Aces have Asia Wilson. They basically, it was like the Warriors winning the championship in 2016, then adding Kevin Durant is essentially what Candace Parker was adding. Like a little bit of that.
I've long said this. I don't even believe it's the product on the floor that's, I don't want to say hindering the WNBA, because as you said, it seems like they're growing as of the last 3-4 years, especially. We'll say even 5 years.
Yeah.
But I feel like their marketing is not there. I do not feel like the marketing is there. They're always playing on ESPN2 rather than ESPN. That should change. So yeah, I would like to see them.
League Pass is $24.99, which makes it like you just like okay. I mean, I like it because that means I can just barely spend anything and watch all the games. But at the same time, what's that saying about the product? If you're not willing to like,
the reason why it's probably $25 or $24.99 is because of their low level of games. Because they only play like 32 games, correct?
Yeah.
So I can see that, but in general, them having a package with ESPN, ABC, ESPN, and them being directly affiliated with the NBA, the NBA and Adam Silver should be putting much more money behind them as far as marketing. They have an incredible marketing team, as we know, and I think they do well with the WNBA and with, I guess, women's college basketball would be different, but I think the WNBA does well on Instagram and on social media. I really do. But as far as
they do
TV and that kind of marketing, I don't think it's up to par with like the NBA. I'd like to see them get more topics on a First Take, on SportsCenter, and that's without me really even watching those. I can guarantee you they don't discuss, what the Aces signing Candace Parker on their A block for sure. You know what I mean? Not even their B block. So I would definitely like to see them get more notice, more recognition. Because the women's game is great, and like as I mentioned, Caitlin Clark is just so incredibly
skilled. It's more fundamentally
sound. It is, exactly.
It's more fundamentally sound. Not that you have to like love. I mean, I understand we watch the NBA not just for the fundamentals, but for obviously the athleticism. But at the same time, it is nice to see the ball movement, the backdoor passing, the screens, that stuff as an actual basketball fan is nice to watch. And it's definitely more, they have to be. So they are more fundamentally sound than a lot of the men's games are.
I would say more like if you're going to get the level of shooting that you're getting from Caitlin Clark and the flashy passes you'll be getting from her and Paige Bueckers. Like Candace Parker, she's a great passer. She's like the female Jokic. Like, you don't even hear Candace Parker's passing talked about enough. You know what I mean? And there's plenty of girls like Skylar Diggins. She's got game. Like, there's plenty of girls who play with play with
Absolutely.
sauce in the WNBA. It's just not
Stewart's
marketed.
so phenomenal.
I would say growing up, Keenan, I would say like when I was a kid, I didn't watch the WNBA, but I absolutely knew who Lisa Leslie, Cheryl Swoops, all these women were. Cynthia Cooper, who else? Diana Taurasi. And granted, they were all big in the college game because you have to stay for 3 years. I would like to see them at least lower that to 2, if not get rid of it altogether. But I think the women's college game is a good avenue for the WNBA right now. So they should at least lower it to 2. Keep these stars in college at least. I think that benefits them way more than the NBA, obviously, because they should just do away with any college, the NBA. But I mean, I think it's a good system for them right now having these stars because, like I said, it seems like right now the women's college basketball game is bigger than the men's, and if you can use that and you can promote and you can market the correct way with the WNBA, yeah, they're gonna have something for the next 10 years. They really will, and you're gonna. If Caitlin Clark and whoever else are your brightest stars, and they're, the main parts of their game is pulling up from 30, shooting in general, flashy passes, guess what the next generation is going to be? And, we're already seeing that. And you know what, honestly, Keenan, I mentioned Steph Curry. I think that's part of his influence on the game total. I think because of what Curry did for the NBA, you're going to see that influence from Caitlin Clark all the way down to whatever the next generations are in the women's game. So, I mean, I love to see it. I love to see it.
That is
And
something that I've go on. I was gonna say that's just something that I didn't even really think about fully. But like you're right, which could also again, not that we need to get into anything, but that could also make Steph arguably the most influential player ever. Because like it's not even just affecting men, it is affecting the women's game, and that's making the women's game more. Like, without Steph, you don't get a Caitlin Clark comfortably. Like, you might, you don't know. Like, but at the same point, I don't know if coaches allow it. Because, like, Steph made it okay to pull up from 30 and fine. Because people could do it before, probably. Like, I'm assuming that if Bird really tried, he could pull up from 30 pretty consistently. It's just that Steph made that actually, like, visually okay. It's like, oh man, that's actually something people can do. And then you see Trey, you see Lillard, you see a lot of these NBA stars now are pulling up from the parking lot. And then now you're trickling into the NBA. You're gonna get Caitlin Clark. There's a girl in high school, and I can't think of her name right now, but she can shoot the lights out too, same kind of range. So it's like you're going to see it more and more, and that's interesting to think that maybe Steph may be more influential just because he even did it, trickled into the women's game as well. Someone like, obviously, LeBron couldn't do that because they can't jump and do things like LeBron.
Yeah, I mean, Steph's game is definitely more, it's more easy to emulate than LeBron's or like an MJ of the past or anything like that. So, yeah, no, I mean, to me, that's what you see for the direct influences. People like Steph, Lillard, Trey Young. But yeah, Steph being the main one for it because, I mean, he completely changed the way the game is played, I mean, now it's on both sides, whether it's women's, men's. The most important thing is shooting in the three-point ball, and that's directly attributed to Steph. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And so going into that, right in the NBA, I'm super, super excited for these last few games right now. The Clippers are up 71-52 on the Lakers. That game means a lot for seeding purposes. So it's going to be interesting to see how that second half goes. But I'm really interested to see how the West is seeded. In my head, I have a perfect way that I want it. But I don't know how you're feeling about... I'll ask you... Actually, I'm interested to see. How do you feel about your Celtics right now? And then we'll go into the other portions.
Honestly, I mean... Whether it's the Celtics, whether it's the Bucks, whether it's the Sixers, pick one. Right now, I feel.
Yeah.
What was
absolutely.
it? A month ago? Really, the last 3 weeks. Right? We recorded 2 weeks ago. I'd been saying I had Philly, I had Boston. That might have changed a little bit. I have a little more confidence in Boston. Starting with, I believe when we had Camden on, they played the Kings before that. The night before, and they had a great game, like one of their best games in weeks. And they've been they've been more up than down since then. Philly's roughly been the same, but I know Harden's just came back from injury, but it just does not seem like he's playing at the level that Maxey and Embiid are. I just don't know. It's really going to hinge on Harden for them. And the way he was playing prior to his injury was he was playing really well. He was, playing point guard, which he's still getting his assists, but his level of aggression is not there. Now, last night they played the Celtics. It didn't even matter because Embiid went fucking insane. He went fucking insane. And actually, Harden played better than he had in prior games. And Maxey didn't bring it last night. But
yeah,
Celtics, wait and see. It's wait and see for them. I think we're going to get the best. If we're talking about the Sixers, I think we're going to get the best version of Embiid we've ever seen in the playoffs. And their success is going to completely hinder on whether Harden's ready, if he's healthy, if he's going to bring it. Tobias Harris, are we going to get 18-point Tobias Harris, or are we going to get 6 points, 2 rebounds? Didn't get to the line, Tobias Harris. If he can at least give him 15 a game, boom, they're good. I know last year when they were, I forget who they got eliminated by last year, and I know you asked me about the Celtics, but I'm on the Sixers right now. But I forget who eliminated. The Heat eliminated them. I remember it was the elimination game, and they were down, I think, double digits in the fourth, and the only 2 players who were really like going for it was Tyrese Maxey and Shake Milton. Embiid, I don't want to say he checked out, but he was not to the level of intensity that those 2 were. And Harden was prime James Harden, as we've seen him in postseason affairs. And we've seen that James Harden this year in some big games in the regular season. So my bet would still be Milwaukee. We just seen Boston beat Milwaukee by 40 last week. They look very comfortable on their home floor, by the way. They look very comfortable there. Does it matter much? No, it doesn't necessarily matter, but it never looks good losing by 40 on your home court going into the postseason. I know if the shoe was on the other foot.
Twice?
They lost by 40 twice?
Twice. They've lost to Boston twice. Jason Tatum in his last 2 games against Milwaukee is averaging 40 on like 67%.
They lost to 40 by them?
Milwaukee, Boston seems to have Milwaukee's number. Like
in effect, I think they're very comfortable playing Milwaukee.
Like they're not scared of them.
They're not scared of Milwaukee at all. No. They're not scared of Milwaukee at all. They've met them numerous times.
And that's the thing. And they can go into Milwaukee and win. Like Game 6, Giannis goes for 44 and 20. Like Giannis was like, "We're not going back to Boston," and Tatum said, "Yes, we are," with 46 himself. Like they can go into Milwaukee. They can look Giannis dead in the face with Giannis balling out and say, "We can match you. We have a player who can match you, and the rest of our team can match your team," which is scary for them because, like the thing with the Sixers, Giannis can go crazy. They have a player who can match him. Like Embiid can match Giannis for sure, 100%. But can the rest of the Sixers match the Bucks? That's going to be something interesting if they get there. Obviously, they have to play Boston to see. But that will be interesting to see if that's the case. And that comes down specifically to Harden. Because Drew, regardless if Middleton's there or not injury-wise, he does show up when he's there. But Drew Holiday will be showing up. Will Drew Holiday be the third best? He should not be because Harden has the capability of being better. But will Drew Holiday be the third best player in that series? I'd probably put my money on it, even though Harden should be. If that makes sense. Could be.
I mean, I don't even know if, he should be. No, you're right. I mean, he should have been many times, But yeah, no, I mean, like you said, like how Boston is not afraid and can go and win in Milwaukee. They didn't have Middleton last year. Yep. Now they should have their full squad. We can say the same thing about them. They can go into TD Garden, and that's nothing for them,
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Just them having Middleton there. And almost said Embiid. Giannis is obviously going to play heavy minutes in the playoffs, but you're now able to sit him maybe, 3 more minutes per game than last year. Whereas last year you couldn't. By Game 7, Giannis had nothing left really. And, he had his worst game in that Game 7. Yeah. Now, if it gets to that point, you're going to have Holiday probably coming off his best season. I could be wrong about that, but Holiday had a really amazing stretch. I mean, he just dropped,
say roughly.
He just had 51, 8, and 8 last week.
51.
Right? So you got Holiday, you got Middleton starting to round into form. Brook Lopez is having his best season. I'm scared of Milwaukee. Philly, I was scared of about 2 weeks ago, but now I'm back to wait and see because of Harden, and we'll see. I mean, we're literally going to see all this next weekend to start, which is crazy. We got the play-in during the week next week, and then next Saturday is underratedly probably one of my favorite weekends of sports all year because you got Saturday and Sunday from noon to midnight, basically, or after midnight. You got NBA playoff games. You can't get much better, and there is such a difference in quality of play from the postseason to the regular season. So I cannot wait. I'm giddy, but we got to get through this week. We got to get through everything. The East. I mean, you just mentioned the East. It's literally just those three teams. I think the play-in's getting a little more interesting there because the Bulls are starting to ratchet up. Go ahead.
Yeah, something interesting that I do want to mention is this is a hypothetical. Obviously, this has to happen. If Boston makes it to the finals again, it's going to be interesting to see how tired they are. Because if most likely they're going to see Miami in round one, that is as tough of a round one matchup as you're going to get, especially as a 2 seed. That could be either a real tough 5 or go 6 because we know Jimmy Butler can seal a game, and the Miami Heat team's good enough to at least get you a game too. So you're going to go from the Heat to the Sixers to the Bucks to then a finals team. I'm not saying obviously this is going to happen. We don't know. There's a lot to happen. Miami may not even make it if they lose in the play, whatever. I'm thinking super hypothetically, but if that happens to be their first round matchup in Miami, that's going to be super tough again having to do. I mean, it was kind of like last year. They went from Brooklyn, even though it was a sweep, every game was close. Then they played the Bucks in a tight 7. Then they played the Heat in a physical tight 7. And then they played the Warriors and lost in 6. And was it gas? Was it them being a little careless and tired at the end of games because they were turning the ball over? I don't know.
Yeah,
but it's going to be interesting to see if they can do that again. I mean, bad decisions, but also, yeah.
It was a mixture of the Warriors' experience mixed with them, yes, being tired, for sure. Those two, specifically those 2 7-game series, those were rock fights. You know what I mean? The Milwaukee series was physical. The Heat series was straight out of the early 2000s. Like, it really was.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So I think if they happen to get to the finals this year, I think they'd be more ready for it. Tatum, for sure, would be more ready for it. I believe Jalen would be. I believe the whole squad would be. And they got a deeper squad this year, too. So whoever they got, I think they'd be more equipped for it. But the East, if that happens to be their path, if it's Miami into Philly into Milwaukee, that's an extremely tough path. Like, even if you flipped that to Milwaukee or Philly getting that path, right? If it's then Philly getting Miami, then Boston, then Milwaukee. You know what I mean? If that's your 3 teams in any order, that's insane. You know what I mean? That's going to be tough for anybody. So if they even got to the finals.
The one matters so much for them.
For sure. And it looks like
because you get
Milwaukee doesn't have it all the way wrapped up.
The Bucks clinched it tonight.
Did they? They clinched for sure?
They clinched it tonight.
Oh, okay. Well,
they clinched it 100% tonight. They yeah, I got an update about it. With their win, they'd clinched the 1 seed. So
it looks like the Celtics are going to get the 2. How many games ahead are they?
Probably going to get the 2. And
are they 2 games ahead of Philly or game and a half?
I think they're 2 games ahead of Philly right now. I can check real quick.
So they'll likely get it.
I think they're 2 games ahead of Philly.
They'll likely get it.
Yeah, they're 2.5 ahead of Philly right now.
Okay, so they'll likely get it, but it'll be interesting what happens with those top 3 because the middle class of the Eastern Conference, where you got Cleveland, the Knicks, and then probably the Heat. Who else is at the 6 now? Toronto might make it. Chicago's playing really well. Chicago has looked like one of the better teams over the last month and a half, which is weird. Really, since they picked up Pat Bev, they've kind of changed their culture. Yeah, Lonzo's out. It's too bad they don't have Lonzo because they could be scary for like a second round team.
They could. You know? Absolutely. And And if say the Heat fall down to the 8, and Milwaukee has to see Miami in the first round, then Milwaukee has to play the Cavs or the Knicks, which are two of the best defensive teams that are going to give them physical series. Then that could be interesting for them too. And then maybe Boston gets Atlanta. They're tough, but I mean they're interesting. But like Trae Young and DeJounte, cool. Boston can make.
Series.
I was gonna say Boston can make quick work of that. Trae and DeJounte will probably get you one together, but like Boston can make quick work of that series, and that series is not going to be highly physical. They are a pretty finesse team. So
you didn't ask
and
this,
then you go into a tough Philly.
You didn't ask this, but I'd rather have DeJounte Murray than Trae Young if I'm Atlanta. If I'm any team, really, or just if you're asking me, I'd rather have DeJounte on my team than Trae Young.
Oh yeah. So here's the thing. I think Trae Young might even be a better player than DeJounte, but I think when you add things into it, like he's the way he is, like off the court. I know there's been a few issues. The fact that he's also really small, and like Steph was a liability, but you were able to hide it more, especially with how it is. But Steph was still 6'3". Trae's 6 foot and probably more towards 5'11", and he's not Chris Paul. So like,
well, that's the thing. He is a good passer, but his shot selection, he is not efficient. He is inefficient in a way Chris Paul never was, and in a way Curry never was. So, you know.
I was like Chris Paul. I meant defensively because Chris Paul was small, but he still could lock up. But go on, yeah. What you're saying?
No, I was just saying I'd rather have DeJounte on my squad, the way he plays defense, the way he plays all around, than Trae Young. Now that doesn't mean the right coach or system wouldn't benefit Trae Young, but right now I'd rather take DeJounte than Trae Young. But if we're talking NBA playoffs in general,
so
go ahead.
You're good. So if you're talking NBA playoffs in general, go on. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say.
I was just thinking because that made me go.
Go ahead.
We keep cutting each other off.
Yeah.
So that made me think of the guy he was traded for in the draft, Luka Doncic. I was going to ask you about the West, but because you brought up Trae and you're talking about you'd rather have DeJounte than Trae, I was thinking to myself the other day, because obviously the Mavs have been losing, and it's not just because the Mavs have been losing, it's how they've been losing, and I've mentioned this before. I mentioned this a couple years back, because I mentioned it like a while back, actually, when we talked about the 60-point game of how I think Luka's going to have to change his play to win championships, because he's going to be individually great, but I don't think it's conducive for winning like rings. I think there are maybe 5 or 6 people that I would rather build a team around than Luka, which is crazy to think because like a month ago he was probably my 3rd best player in the league. But I think I would rather. I just think it's so difficult to build. I think you have to build such a specific team around him, and it's hard to do, if you know what I mean. Like, the second star has to be a perfect, like, maybe Chris Middleton, Pascal Siakam, only that style of player can be next to him. I don't think he's, like, you have to build a very certain team for him. Like, he can't just fit in anywhere. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I kind of disagree with that. I mean, I came on here a few weeks ago and said how Luka very much, even though he's a really good passer, like you saw his pass where he was falling out of bounds and he whipped it cross court to the corner. Did you see that? Around a player.
That was one of the craziest passes I've ever seen.
That was nuts.
One of the crazy. He can do things I've never seen before, like things like that. But
he has an incredible passing
ability,
makes him so
but
great. To me, he hunts shots, right? Like, he just seems like a ball hog. He wants to shoot. Not a black hole, but if it's him or Kyrie, whereas KD might give Kyrie the shot, Luka's taking that fucking shot, right? Even Harden might give it up to a Kyrie before, even like prime Harden, like Rockets Harden. If he had this version of Kyrie, if he had this version of Kyrie with him, he's more apt to dish it to an open Kyrie than this Luka. This slide that they're on, I mean, wasn't hard to predict. I mean, they gave away the only quality defensive player they had on the perimeter, and Finney Smith. So this slide to me was pretty natural. Luka, again, I just think he's at an immature point in his career. I don't think he's that hard. I don't think he's like an Iverson or even like a Trae Young, as we just mentioned, that you have to build a specific team around. I don't believe that. I think shooters fit around him more. But, you mentioned Chris Middleton. I think you could put a Chris Middleton on any team. He's very much the definition of 3-and-D.
Oh, yeah.
Luka's a 6'8".
I think
Luka's
he's just more like Westbrook.
I guess so. But, with Westbrook,
And
like
I think
I
you
mentioned,
have to build a certain team around Westbrook for him to be like his most successful. Because you saw him try to fit in on. He's doing better with the Clippers for sure, but he's been better with the Clippers like when there's not the second star. It's like without Paul George or without Kawhi Leonard, then you see Westbrook because he has the ball and he's in firm control of it. Then you see his best games. But
but I mean,
I don't know. He's
Westbrook.
Like
Westbrook
LeBron
played,
can play off. Like LeBron showed with Wade, he could play and be off the ball and do better and like actually mold himself into being around other people. And obviously he worked with Kyrie and Kevin Love too. So,
I mean, look, I don't know if LeBron's the right example because we've heard players like Bosh, like Kevin Love, openly say LeBron is very hard to adapt to. You know what I mean? So I think it might be the case of that with Luka, where he those, especially that second Cavs run. LeBron had the ball a lot, and then he could defer to Kyrie.
Oh, yeah, that second one, absolutely.
That's what I think. That's what I think it's kind of in right now, where Luka's got the ball a lot, and he doesn't want to pass it like LeBron. So then you got a lot of guys standing around, very much like Harden in Houston. You just got a lot of guys standing around. It doesn't necessarily have to be that, but you'd want to pair. You'd want to pair Luka with shooters. You would want to pair him. I think Kyrie was the right guy to get because he's basically playing the role that Brunson did last year. And Brunson did a lot for them. Brunson would be the guy who could A, spot up, but B, when Luka doesn't have the ball, and he's doing it in New York, he can be your playmaker. He can get you a bucket from any level of the floor, whether it's at the rim, mid-range, three. Kyrie can do that too. They're lacking some 3-and-D guys. They're made of shooters.
They can't play defense.
They have no defense at all. They're made of shooters who are either undersized wings, like Tim Hardaway, he's like 6'4", 6'5", or you got Maxi Kleber, Bertans types. They can't guard anybody. Last year, that's why they were so successful, was they did actually lock up and play with effort on defense. I mean, I don't know. A couple things. I want to defend Westbrook because he's only been on the Clippers here for about 2 months now. Almost 2 months, month and a half.
Yeah. And
I think he's looked much better on the Clippers than the Lakers, and that's even with or without Paul George. And we'll see it more come to fruition in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah, he's looked better. He's definitely looked better.
And I never thought – I think he was only in the right situation once, and that was in the short time he was in Houston with shooters. But with Luka, you're confusing me because you're kind of all over the place. You had him for MVP, didn't you, early in the year? And didn't you have them making a deep playoff run? Didn't you have the Mavs and Luka making a deep playoff run again?
I had them before the season started. I had them making the second round, I believe.
I just remember us having
making the second round.
I just remember us having an argument, or not?
A debate.
I
had them when
you had them winning a lot of games.
Yeah, I did have them winning
because of Luka.
And here's the thing. I think that's very true. I think that Westbrook can win you a lot of games, like when you're talking about 16, 17. I think Westbrook can win you a lot of games, but not win you a championship. I thought they'd be better than this, but I think if you surround Luka, the way their roster was constructed was Luka Doncic, couple 3-and-D guys, and shooters. I think he is great enough to where he can get his team, or coming into the season, I thought it was like he's great enough to where he can get his team around 48 to 50 wins. And because he is just that incredibly great, but that doesn't mean that you can win a chip with it. That just means that you're good enough to do that in the regular season. In the postseason, you're playing against the best teams consistently. They can build game plans around you. If you don't have if you don't have the team for it, it's just going to look like the Warriors series last year. It's just like they're going to lose in five. So I didn't have them like going to the finals or anything.
I thought you had them winning
not.
like
I just thought that they could win.
I thought you had a higher number of wins for them in the regular season, like 54, 55 maybe.
I had them at my 4 seed. Whatever my 4 seed was.
We'll have to revisit.
I had them at the 4 seed because I had the Warriors. I'll have to figure it out, but I believe I had them at my 4 seed. But anyways, I think that I've said this though, that Luka is great. I think he is very, 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 very good. I just think he needs to alter his play style a little bit if he's going to win championships. Because if not, you'd have to have the perfect, and it's hard to get it. Like if I could draft it on NBA, if I'm on 2K, then I could do it. Because what I would do was just have Luka, then I'd probably try to get Jaylen Brown, then I would get Klay Thompson, and then just get defense from there and 3-and-D guys. But you can't. If you could get that, then cool. But, I mean, again, Jaylen Brown and Klay Thompson fit on all 30 teams right now. Doesn't make a difference of who's there. But it's just hard to build. I think in like how the NBA is obviously contractually and everything, it's just hard to build around that specifically. Like I think you could build, like it's easier to build around Giannis, Steph, KD, Jokic, Embiid. I think it's easier to build around all 5 of those guys.
Yeah, again, I disagree. I just think it's more their front office. I think it's their front office being pretty inept over the last couple of years. You know, I don't think it's hard to, like, there's no reason why your front line should be something like Maxi Kleber. Okay, that's fine. But then to have him backed up with a guy like Bertans, right? And then they still got Dwight Powell, who's not much of a guy other than a pick and roll threat. That's front office. That's not much to do with Luka to me. Now, again, I think Luka looks for his shot too much. I think you could make these guys a little better. But, you know, for you to have literally, and this is not an exaggeration, 0 defensive threat on your team, that's nothing to do with Luka, and that's all to do with the front office. And actually, Mark Cuban had a press conference earlier tonight saying exactly that, saying the way this team looks is on me. I did not, you know, up our weaknesses. I mean, they're a team full of shooters and Luka and Kyrie. It's Kyrie, Luka, and a bunch of people who can shoot and cannot play defense. It's not going to happen, you know. When your 2 best defenders are probably Hardaway Jr. and Bullock, it's going to be tough to win. So I can't put that on Luka. But I do agree he's probably a little tougher to play with.
It's not fully on Luka.
He's probably a little tougher to play with. It's
not fully on Luka. It's just that it's hard. Like, when stars are hard to play with you, like it's hard to get superstar like that kind of level to play with you. I think it's difficult, and in the league that we are in today, I know it's starting to kind of dwindle out from having to have big threes, but like in the league that they have today with a lot of player movement, you need really almost like a second superstar-ish player alongside of you, and if you don't have that, it's going to be really hard to win, and it's hard to get that when you could go 5 minutes without touching the ball for a lot of people. Like there's few people who are fine, like few stars, true stars that are fine with that. So that's kind of the hard thing building. But the Mavs front office has not constructed the roster around him great. That's another thing as well. There's more than just Luka why they're not in even the play-in.
I don't think they've surrounded him. Like with Jokic, Denver's got like Aaron Gordon. He's an underrated passer. You know what I mean? Like there's players on that team. Jamal Murray, he gets his shots up, but he's a willing passer. The only person in their main core that's not a willing passer is probably Michael Porter Jr. Luka, like I said, it's all shoot first guys.
He doesn't need to be,
and he doesn't need to be. But Mavericks are all spot up shooters in Luka. So I don't think. Whatever the best version of having people around or players around Luka is, we haven't seen it yet. So, I don't know. I mean, he's only 23 too. So I would like to see him with a true iteration.
Oh, he's got so much time.
and we don't even know if Kyrie's coming back. We don't know what this team will look like next year. So I'd like if Kyrie is his long-term number 2, like let's say they do bring back Kyrie, I want to see what that roster looks like because I do not think it's fair to judge on the second half of this year. I think that Luka could certainly be a better leader
that's fair too.
In a way that those guys you mentioned, like Giannis, like Embiid, like Jokic, I think Luka has some time to become that as far as a leader. But again, he's 23. He's still a baby in this league. And in some ways, a grown-ass man in this league. Like, he can dominate like nobody should. For him to not be able to, dominate the game athletically like Giannis and LeBron, like a prime LeBron, and for Luka to put up the numbers he does and do what he does with the rock, people should be scared when he does have a crew around him because it's over for everybody. It really might be like.
Oh, absolutely. I think I just think he needs to alter a little bit, just a little bit of like how he operates. Like I think Mike had to too. Like I think Mike had to alter how he played just a touch. Not that it's bad or anything, just said to alter it a little bit.
It's got to mature.
You get then the front office makes the right moves. You got to just mature a little bit. That's really more so what I was kind of like. I just think that it's weird because I think he's super, super great when you're just individually talking about him. Like he's really, like if you said he was the best player in the league, as I think it's Giannis, I couldn't really even fully hate it. I would just say but it's just I think it's hard right now to build around him just because of his play style and the way you would have to build it's just difficult to do in a league that actually has other teams.
I think his play style.
That was more so my point behind it rather than.
I think his play style is conducive to the roster that's around him.
Okay. All right.
What we got next?
Sorry, was there anything else you were saying? I wasn't sure if you were saying anything else there at all. So next, we can shift over to the NFL, the National Football League. There is a guy who has been in some trade talks. Used to play quarterback for the New England Patriots. Name's Mac. So what did you think when you heard and saw that Mac Jones, I guess, has been shopped by Bill, which, again, they said that didn't happen. I don't really know, but the reports have came out that Bill's looking to shop Mac.
Well, the reports were that he has shopped Mac, right? That he already has been shopping him.
Sorry. He's looking, meaning like he's actually shopped and still looking to. My bad.
I didn't really want to talk about football for a couple of weeks. I wanted to wait till after the draft, as specifically to someone.
If you don't want to die.
Specifically when it pertains to the biggest restricted free agent, if we're going to use an NBA term. I wanted to wait till after the draft, see what happens, see if he signed a tender with anybody before then.
Okay.
He hasn't. And then this news comes out. Let me start with Bill Belichick first, because I'm in the weirdest spot I've ever been as a Patriots fan with Bill Belichick, okay? Because I've defended him over the years since Brady left and said, hey, look, some people were unrealistic and were like, fire Bill Belichick after the 2020 season. Those are unrealistic people. And I'm looking at it like, hey, Cam Newton, who's now out of the league, who was basically out of the league, a year and a half after that season. Yeah. You had, I think, 7 or 8 defensive starters who just said no to the season, right? So you just imagine that. You've removed 8 of your defensive starters just out of the season. They're gone. Now you just got backups at those positions, right? And you got Cam Newton, who's soon to be out of the league.
Dante Hightower being one of the best middle linebackers in the league, who was out too. But go on.
Yeah, exactly. And congrats on a career to Dante Hightower, by the way, who has since retired. So they go 7-9 with Cam Newton, with backup defensive players, and a weird 2020 season. Boom. Comes back next year, Mac Jones rookie, 9-8 playoffs, I believe. Blown out in the wild card game, but playoffs nonetheless, right? So you've already improved from 2020 to 2021.
I can't let him slide on that one much. Oh, yeah, you definitely improved and definitely there, but you can't. I'm a little upset with him about that. You cannot let the Bills score every time they touch the ball. That is ridiculous. Sorry.
It's ridiculous. They got outplayed, but it happens
every time.
It happens, right? Any given Sunday, you just never know. Was it the performance we wanted? But
Every
no,
time.
they improved from 2020 to 2021 with a rookie quarterback. Then 2022 comes, and you say, "Hey,
Yep.
we improved last year. We have a rookie quarterback. I've got a bright idea. Why don't we take this failed defensive coordinator, this failed head coach, and let's make him the offensive coordinator in a critical year for a developing quarterback?" We all saw it from the beginning, like it was going to be terrible. I even came in here and said, "Hey, let's give it a chance. Maybe Bill sees something that we don't see here," which was ridiculous. And guess what? I still say this. The first few weeks, Patricia called okay games. He called okay games those first few weeks. I was ready to hate on Matt Patricia, and he came in here.
A dead clock is right twice a day. So
He gave us more than two.
okay.
He gave us more than two good games, though. And then Mac Jones gets injured. Bailey Zappi comes in, and they seem to do well with Bailey Zappi. You've got to give Patricia that. So all in all, I'll give Patricia about 6 good games out of 16 or 17, however many they play now, right? 6 good games, maybe.
Yeah.
He did not have a great season pretty much as soon as Matt came back. And I think Matt came back in week 6 or 7. Whatever. Patricia was terrible. The defense was good. But now I'm in this position. Pats fans might have been here before, but now I'm in this position where I'm truly like, all right, they got to do something this year. You know, you need at least a 10-win season. You need the playoffs. Like anything other than that is inexcusable, right? And, you know, you got me out here defending because I'm really sick of this. The Patriots need a number 1 receiver. I think that's the laziest. It's the laziest thing to say because if the Patriots were fucking moving the ball with Bailey Zappi at one point, right? And receivers are open and Mac's not hitting them, that's not a receiver problem. That's a direct coaching problem. Like the communication, the breakdowns, Mac's regression, that's either on Mac Jones himself, which I don't believe because his first season did go well and he showed his intellect in that first season. That's one thing you could say about him is, okay, this guy doesn't have the physical gifts, but man, he seems to be able to read defenses, make decisions at the line, run a no huddle. He showed true intellect as a rookie quarterback, okay? And for him to regress, it just seemed like coaching and to have these problems where you're, you know, barely getting the plays off, getting multiple delay of games. I mean, shit, they make the playoffs if it's not for them fumbling the ball in that Christmas Eve game against the Bengals, the Jacoby Myers play against the Raiders. Like, so despite all that, this team very well could have been in the playoffs last year, despite having Forrest Gump as their offensive coordinator. So I'm at this position again with Bill Belichick where I'm like, it's got to be a playoff season or I can't defend you anymore. What can I say? This defense is great. I truly think that's a Super Bowl ready defense, at least last year. We lost McCourty this year. Duggar's going to have an even bigger role, and I think he's got all pro written all over him in the future. We've got the pass rush. We've got to improve our linebacker group a little bit, but the defense is there. Receivers, who knows? Apparently quarterback, who knows? And we'll talk about that more. But I feel like we're going to get a lot more Ramondre, which we did last year. He had a great he looks like a star on the rise. We got Bill O'Brien. Let's see it. Now, who's the quarterback? Is it Mac? Is it Zappi? Is it somebody else that might play in the AFC? That might be a restricted free agent? I don't know. I don't really want to talk about it because I don't want to jinx it. But we seem to have to talk about it. That's my stance on Bill Belichick. I want to hear what you have to say about Mac Jones and these rumors, and then I'll respond to that. But all in all, these last 3 weeks leading up to the draft, all I can think about in regards to the Patriots, aside from a certain quarterback, is this truly seems like a make or break season for Bill Belichick. And we will talk about this much more when it's July, August, and we're getting closer to the season. But I've never felt this way about Bill Belichick where I'm like, all right, man, I'll give you those first 2.5 seasons. Last year was inexcusable. Patricia should have never been there. Joe Judge should have never been in the position he was in. Now this year we seem to have things right. I'm going to let you respond and then I'm going to go. Because, actually I'll say it right now. Fuck it. Let me get this out the way before. But I don't want to talk about it, but I'm going to talk about it. What really got me to this position was when allegedly, right, Meek Mill, Philadelphia rapper, as we know, says to Robert Kraft, hey, Lamar Jackson wants to play for you guys. And then reports come out that Belichick's going to stick with Mac Jones. That's when I was really like, all right, what? Is this true? Is this real? Is that something? Is Bill Belichick really going to choose Mac Jones over Lamar Jackson? Now I can understand what you'd have to give up for Lamar, and Lamar would be a lot of money. But in general, if it was literally just like this, put to you like this, Mac Jones, Lamar Jackson, would Bill Belichick really pick Mac Jones over Lamar Jackson? And then we got the news yesterday, and I got a little more excited than I should be. That was a rumor, and that's where I want to leave it. And if we stand where we are after the draft, and there's still rumors, or we might have drafted a quarterback, or maybe we didn't draft a quarterback, but we got substantially better in the draft, and there's still Mac Jones rumors, and there's still a quarterback that plays for the Baltimore Ravens right now who has not been offered anything by anybody. I don't know. There's a lot of rumors, and there's more smoke. That's it. I can't talk anymore about it. I don't want to jinx it. I do not. I'm going to let you respond, and then if you get whatever else out of me after that, cool. But I would really prefer to wait till the draft, but I want to hear what you have to say about Mac Jones and Bill Belichick and such in this offseason.
I've always been in the camp. I've been saying that. I said this, obviously. I've told you this. We've talked about this a lot, about how I've felt since Tom Brady was there the last year that we just needed one more guy. And the reason why is just because the same way Jalen Hurts took that next leap when you added A.J. Brown, that Josh Allen took that next leap when you added Stephon Diggs, how we think Justin Fields might be able to take that next step that you add DJ Moore, that if you were to add something like that to Mac, that it would definitely be beneficial just because it would give him a solidified number one target there. And I've never said that we needed the best receiver. I just said a legitimate one. And if Devontae Parker can stay healthy for 16 weeks, 17 weeks, I would be even okay with that if you had whatever. But that's always what I've ever said, because that, I think, helps quarterbacks out for sure. Going into the offseason, I said this exactly. Get a human being at offensive coordinator. We just need some sort of human. Wasn't asking for much. Bill O'Brien, I would have loved it to be outside of the Bill Belichick camp in their friends, in their Friday night poker group. I would have loved it if we would have just said, like, hey, let's try to get some new and more innovative offensive mind. But he was like, let me go call my buddy Nick Saban and say, hey, can we have Bill O'Brien back? And you're like, sure, great, take him. Cool. Anyways, we still got a guy who was a decently successful head coach, got to the playoffs a couple times with the Texans, and was a breathable human being as an offensive coordinator, so that's cool. That's better than whatever I could have probably called plays of the Madden playbook better than last year. So that's great. Yeah, he's got a legitimate offensive mindset and background, which is really cool. So I was happy about that. I was hopeful to be like, hey, it really is a lot to ask, is just be a capable, breathable offensive human. I was hopeful that we would trade a second to get DeAndre Hopkins, but there's a report that he might be cut. I don't even know anymore. I really don't know. But if DeAndre Hopkins is available for something cheap, we should go get DeAndre Hopkins because it's DeAndre Hopkins. And then Lamar Jackson came out like, yeah, I put in a trade request. And I was like, I don't care what we have to do. We scrap whatever, and we go get Lamar Jackson. You want to know why? Top 8 quarterback in the league means 24 other teams we'd have better quarterbacks than them. And the Jets are looking to get Aaron Rodgers. Tua's pretty solid if he's healthy. Josh Allen is really good. We're now in a division, and especially in a conference, where you need pretty good quarterback play to win. Not that I didn't think Mac could go do it, because I think if you put the right things around him, give him a year, we could see what he is. But again, Lamar Jackson is right there. Lamar Action Jackson is there. All you have to do is trade this year's first and Mac Jones, and you can probably get him. You would have to pay him. And honestly, that might be where the disconnect comes in. You'd have to pay him, Bill. I understand. Give him about a 5-year deal, $210 million, with like $120 guaranteed, with like $40 million in incentives. Because at some point, Lamar is gonna have to realize this fully guaranteed deal that he is trying to go after, he's not gonna get. So it's either going to be he takes a deal like I just said, or he's done playing football, and I don't think he is just going to quit the sport. That seems very stupid. So he's just not going to get it. And especially since he created his own website, and doesn't look good, and he obviously has no representation. It's just not looking great he's not helping his cause at all. But Bill, just go talk to John. I bet you guys probably play poker too together. Just go talk to John. Say, hey, we got a first-round pick. We got Mac. Let us take Lamar. We'll pay him. You guys can get a conventional quarterback there. You can see if you work magic with him. If not, you guys can go for it, because you guys are just a run-first team that likes to play tough, stout defense, and Mac just don't turn the ball over. That is what should happen and what I would love to happen. But will it? Probably not, because Bill doesn't like to actually grant me things he tried to get rid of Brady. And since that moment, sometimes I just question the GM decisions he makes on the offensive side of the football. Defensively, he can literally just do whatever he wants to. He trades Jamie Collins and then gets Jamie Collins back, and just weird things.
We have Jamie Collins on loan.
He does whatever with the defense. The defense is going to be... Yeah, I was gonna say the defense is gonna be top 12 at minimum every year. I'm legitimately never concerned. It'll start the season, I'm like, who are these people? By the end, I'm like, oh, these are cool people. It's never been the defensive side of the ball I was worried about. You never had to worry about offense, because when you have the GOAT, who was the GOAT for 20 years, it's like, oh man, that works. But now you don't have the GOAT. You don't have Josh McDaniels, who, regardless, was still a decent offensive coordinator. We need to do something. Get Lamar Jackson. That's to something.
All right, couple retorts. Let me shoot Bill some bail here. Brady wanted to leave too. He did want to leave. Belichick definitely.
Oh, absolutely.
Belichick definitely had a hand in that.
Well, he did want to leave at first. And
True.
He probably wanted to leave after he tried to trade Jimmy, and before he's like, yeah, we're going to pick Jimmy G over you. And then he was like, man, you know what? Maybe I'm not respected here. But go on. At the end, definitely Brady wanted to go.
He underestimated Brady's longevity a little bit, for sure. Look, everything with Lamar, I still could see him going back to the Ravens. Like you said, if his big holdout, here's the two things here. His big holdout is a guaranteed deal. And then the other part of it is that he has no agent. That's completely unnatural not to have an agent. The last player I can think of that went into negotiations without an agent is Ndamukong Suh. And that's in his Lions years, I believe. Ndamukong Suh, while he might have been a franchise player for the Lions, he is not the franchise player in a way that a star quarterback is, right? Especially one as Lamar Jackson, who won an MVP, who is as dynamic as Lamar. But also, I think what people are forgetting here, he's a restricted free agent in essence. So whatever anybody throws at him, within reason, the Ravens can just match it like that. Like literally, as soon as they get it, they can go, "Yup, all right, we'll pay him that," and then they automatically retain his rights. So yeah, as much as Lamar might have requested a trade or he might want to leave right now, the Ravens are within the right to be like, "Oh, we're not." I guarantee you they're going to match. Within reason, they're going to match damn near anything. And especially if it's someone like the Patriots offering it, that's the last thing they're going to want is New England to get Lamar Jackson. Unless the Patriots are really going to pay Lamar that much. Unless the Patriots are really going to give up 2 firsts and then whatever else on top of it. again, it really depends on how much Lamar's truly available. We haven't seen Lamar's been available for a month now, and we've seen no offers. Everybody want to throw out the Lions rumor. Everybody want to throw out the Falcons. Those were two teams that came out and were like, "No, we're good."
The Lions make so much sense.
And the Patriots, on every betting site, wherever the odds makers are, Patriots are always in the top 3, sometimes the top 2. They're always in the top 5 for Lamar's next team. If you remember, when people were talking about Deshaun leaving the Texans years ago, people were picking the Patriots as a destination. That does not come from nowhere. Let me say that. And then to respond to you now belatedly about the reports about Mac Jones being shopped, you never hear anything come out of New England when it pertains to players like that. Even Brady that last season, it was not. That very well could have been a LeBron in 2010 when he was on the Cavs. Like, literally that whole season, it was like, is LeBron going to the Knicks? Is LeBron leaving? Is this his last year in Cleveland? If he wins a title in Cleveland, does he stay? Like, that was literally the entire 2010 season you heard about LeBron. Brady's 2019 season, you heard whispers about it, but you heard it more from local media than you did NFL media, the general NFL media, right? All that to say, if you didn't hear shit about Brady that year, the fact that you're hearing about a Mac Jones trade in, what is it? We're in April now. If you're hearing Mac Jones rumors in April, that's not out of nowhere. That means he absolutely was having conversations. Now, was he truly shopping him, trying to trade him, or were they just general conversations? We don't know. But something happened. Something definitely happened.
I don't think Bill has conversations just to have a convo.
Well, not only that, nothing
shopping him. I just don't think he's.
That's not true because they say, I've heard reporters, especially beat reporters for the Pats, say that whenever a star player becomes available, the Patriots do always make a call and do their due diligence. They will check in on that player. And that very well could be what it was. It could have been an opposing coach calling in or opposing GM calling in and them having conversations. The fact of the matter is someone in the Patriots building leaked whatever conversation this was about Bill Belichick and Mac Jones, whether it was a true shop or whether it was just general, hey, what do you think about Mac? What's his value? What's this? What's that? We don't know. But the fact that it's coming around the same time that we know, again, via Meek Mill, shouts to Meek, that Lamar wants to play for the New England Patriots, it had my wheels turning. It had my wheels turning. And I don't want that to happen because I don't want to end up disappointed. But if we end up with Mac Jones, let me say this. As much as I like the Bailey Zappi run last year, I'd rather have Mac Jones under center this year. He's got a history with Bill O'Brien. But overall, who the hell do I want? I want Lamar Jackson on my team. So I don't know. I truly think
Lamar Jackson in a Patriots uniform
since his draft.
Since he was in the draft.
He should have been Brady's backup, and then Brady leaves. We got a different running quarterback. We don't got Cam Newton. We got Lamar. Lamar would have been working.
That's exactly what I thought was going to happen.
Didn't happen.
I thought that's what Bill was doing at 30. And then we're just like, you know what? Sony Michel. Not Nick Chubb, Sony Michel. We got it. All right, cool. Great, love it.
I truly think he's going back to Baltimore, though. I don't see... Baltimore seems to be all in on him. Harbaugh, the front office has said Lamar's their quarterback.
I just don't know. I just don't know how he's going to I just don't know how he's going to feel about that.
Well, hey,
that's all.
We know
I just don't know how he's going to feel about that.
Lamar's kind of acting diva-ish, but not all the way diva-ish. You know what I mean? He's got about 15% diva right now, the way he's acting. And if nobody makes an offer for him and he has to return under that 32.5, guess what they're going to do? They're going to negotiate. Because what's the window they can? This can go till June, till minicamp. What's the exact window on this? I'm assuming June. Right? So if nobody's made, which I doubt this will happen, but let's say nobody really makes a true offer to him till June, and it comes to the time where he's either going to sign that tender, guess what they're going to do? They're going to renegotiate, or they're going to trade him. And then if it is open season, he says, I'm not going to suit up, I'm not going to play, please trade me. Then it's a whole different game. Then his price goes up, and then it's just going to get hella messy. So I don't know. If you would have told me I mean, I think we all would have thought. We did. We talked about it, me, you, and Tim. None of us thought they were going to sign him to the non-exclusive tag, and they did at 32.5. And they basically said, hey, go see your value. Mm-hmm. And what have we seen? Nothing. No movement. None since the beginning of last month. Not a single nothing. And the most we've gotten is that Meek Mill rumor. That's the most action we've got is that Meek Mill rumor.
And I really think that just has to do with Lamar. More than anything.
It's a lot of factors.
You can't convince me that every team is like, no, I don't want him. I just think they don't want him at that price. That's the thing.
That's part of it. And that's where not having an agent comes into this. I think that's such a underrated aspect of this is the no agent part.
That's the biggest aspect of everything here.
Because you don't have...
That is the aspect.
Because, well, not only that, like, when you don't... There's nobody leaking stuff. There's nobody to leak stuff because there's nobody having conversations. Lamar can't go have a conversation with the Detroit Lions or the New England Patriots. Lamar can't do that as a player. He's got to have an agent. So, what happens? I mean, and then again, you don't get the leaks. You don't even got rumors that you can just throw out there as an agent to gain leverage on the other side. So the Ravens hold all the power here.
And you don't have connections. You don't have the connections like that. Like, obviously, when agents are getting together at the draft, or agents are getting together here, or agents are getting together, like, you can kind of, or you can be like, okay, so, hey, what are you hearing? Like, Joe Burrow's coming up soon. So, like, what are you hearing about Joe? Like, what is, like, you as an agent, you build those reports, so you're like, hey, what are you hearing about Joe? Like, what's Joe's contract looking like? And you're like, okay, Joe Burrow, I'm just going to throw random numbers out there. Say Joe Burrow's looking at a 5-year, $300 million deal with $200 guaranteed. You're like, okay, well, let me compare that to Lamar and what Lamar should be getting there too. And it's like, okay, but you can't do that as Lamar Jackson because you don't have that kind of insider information or don't have those relationships built because you've been too busy playing football and doing your job. So him not having an agent, I think it's cute and all, but I think that was definitely the wrong thing, and he is losing himself money, I think, a little bit in the long run of it too. But I guess it is what it is with Lamar. We'll see, and hopefully it's just like the Cam Newton situation a couple years ago. I say that where we're like, wait, why is Cam Newton not getting a deal from anyone? And then the Patriots randomly just get him for cheap, and we're like, oh, okay, that's the hope.
I think the Patriots have about a 30% chance of getting him. Maybe even knock that down to 25, but I think I don't know. That's the thing. If this goes past the draft, then I think you've almost got 20-plus teams going for it. It's just, this story was going to take so many different turns depending on the time of year, depending, if he gets no offers. If he does get an offer.
I see it going by the draft.
And if it does, then it's going to be a true sweepstakes for him. Or it might not be. But I anticipate that more teams would be willing to throw next year's and the year after's first. And I don't know. We'll see. And I don't see the Baltimore Ravens being all that eager. I don't think that them signing him to the non-exclusive tag was slightly disrespectful. But I think it was more of a play of, okay, Lamar, go see your worth. If you don't like what we offered you, because they did offer him a short-term guaranteed deal. And they did offer him a lucrative deal that was long-term. Not fully guaranteed, but a lot of money. And he turned down both. So they're saying, hey, Lamar, all right, you go see your value. And so far, the Ravens are in the right. So far. So they hold all the power. I see him going back to Baltimore. I'm equally intrigued as I am scared to see how this plays out. Because let him go to the Jets or something like that. Like, he just somehow ends up on the Jets. They alter from Aaron Rodgers and they get him and we don't. And, the Jets just offered 2 firsts and that was it. Or 2 firsts and a player. Yeah, I'm not going to be too happy if that's the case. But, again, I think he goes back to Baltimore. I think they hold the cards. And I'm scared to death. But I'm also intrigued. But I do want to say, I want to pivot here from football. I did not hype up the last UFC card. I forgot to bring it up when we recorded prior. We got UFC 287 this weekend. Adesanya versus Alex Pereira 2. Cannot wait. I was in the building for the first matchup, the first UFC matchup. Thrilling match. You got Jorge Masvidal, Gilbert Burns in Miami. That's relevant because Jorge Masvidal is a Miami native. So you got two bangers right there as far as fights. You got a phenom opening the main card up. Raul Rojas Jr., 18-year-old, his second career UFC match. Second match, Kevin Lee versus a guy I can't pronounce his name. It's in flux because it looks like Kevin Holland, not Kevin Lee. He might not make weight. And then I'd have to look at the third fight. Look at me being a fake fan here. But I'm excited for 287. Looks to be my favorite card. I wanted to be in the building. Wanted an excuse to go to Miami, but did not work out. Let me look at this card again, though. Rob Font, Adrian Yanez is the third fight. Bantamweight bout. That'll be a good fight. Rob Font throws hands, decent boxer. Yanez, I believe, also is a striker. So we shall see.
Definitely.
It's a good fight.
Definitely.
Santiago Ponce. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it.
When is the Conor fight?
It's supposed to be, if it was... All right. So him and Michael Chandler are doing The Ultimate Fighter. They've already wrapped up recording. It was like, I think it was 2 weeks. All right. So they've done that. It's supposed to air in, I believe, July.
Yeah.
I think, like July to August maybe. So the match was going to be in like September. It would make sense if it was September. It was supposed to follow the show's airing. You have to do... You have to have 6 months in the USADA pool to be able to be eligible to fight. You do the math here. We're in April. I don't know if Conor's in the USADA pool yet or if he just got in there, but I don't think he is. So, all right, how can you have the fight in September if he's not in the USADA pool, right? So that's what's hanging up right now. It would be a welterweight bout, which Michael Chandler fights at lightweight. So it would be at 170 pounds instead of 155. That's interesting, too. So it's one of those things right now where I'm like, I'll believe it when I see it. Conor keeps talking about it. He's done some media runs as of the last couple of weeks with Proper 12 and for The Ultimate Fighter, I believe. Actually, I think it wasn't just a Proper 12 run. But anyway, I'm at the I'll believe it when I see it point. It's equally a good matchup for Conor, but also could be a bad matchup for him because Michael Chandler is no joke. He's a killer, too. But if he wanted to stick to just his wrestling, he could absolutely get Conor the fuck out of there. But Conor's a better striker than him. And if Michael Chandler chooses to just strike, Conor could get Chandler the fuck out of there. So, hypothetically, it's an intriguing matchup, especially at 170, which, again, I think that favors Chandler more than it does Conor, but I could be wrong about that. But I'll believe it when I see it completely with that. And especially with this whole thing with USADA, which might not even matter. They might just bend the rules for Conor, which I could completely see that. I don't know. It should happen in August or September, but nothing's official yet. It's been talked about a lot, but nothing's been signed. Nothing's been confirmed. But those are the two coaches for The Ultimate Fighter, and they were supposed to have a corresponding match, but we shall see.
Okay, I was just curious because I'd heard rumblings obviously about it like when it first came out, and I just hadn't really heard too much of it afterwards. So I wasn't sure what was going on with it.
Yeah, I hope it happens. I would love for it to happen, but it's up in the air right now. And much with anything about UFC, you can't believe the hypothetical matchups until you actually see it presented. Hey, it was signed. Here it is. This fight's happening here. Da da da. So until then, it's all just talk to me. But I hope it happens.
Absolutely. Do you have anything else you wanted to address at all? That was pretty much everything I had in my
just 287.
docket.
Just UFC 287. I did a shitty job of that because I forgot the third fight, and I can't even pronounce the guy Kevin Holland might be facing in the second fight. But just know this: it's gonna be all bangers, especially on that main card, especially Adesanya versus Pereira 2. I cannot wait for that. It's going to be a fantastic match. And Adesanya might wrestle, which will be interesting, but no, those are two of the best kickboxers on the planet. And they both can throw hands, period. They're incredible strikers. Pereira's got as much power as anybody. Actually, scratch that. And Ngannou's gone. He's got the most power in the UFC, period, now probably. So, yeah, it's scary. And I truly, if you want my prediction, I think Adesanya wins the title back, and then Pereira moves up to light heavyweight.
Wait. When was Izzy's last fight?
The Madison Square Garden card, November. This matchup.
Okay. No, I was going to say, I don't know why. I just mentally felt like it was a quick turnaround. That's why. But it's been okay. It's been like five-ish months.
Yeah, 5 months, yeah. No, they, all depending on how much damage you take, you could have a fight within 3 months. But yeah, no, this was.
Oh, absolutely.
This is about on brand. This is about on brand for them.
Okay, I don't know why I mentally thought this was like later. Because I knew you had went to it, but I thought it was a little later on, so I wasn't 100% sure. I mentally was thinking to myself, like, isn't this like a 2.5 month turnaround? I feel like that's
kind of seems that way, but no, it's
especially for for fighters of that caliber, you typically see more like, from what I've noticed, you typically see maybe like a 5 to 6 month turnaround, especially if it's going to go the distance. You'll see more. Obviously, you need time for your body to recover, or what kind of fight it was. Obviously, if you knock someone out early on, then your body's fine. But
luckily for Adesanya,
I just felt like it was much more recent.
It was pretty recent, but luckily, I mean, really, for as heavy as strikers as they are, neither of them really took damage until the end when Adesanya got stopped. And luckily for him, he did get stopped and not knocked out. Had he got knocked out, we might have seen this fight in June. But no, neither really took damage. Adesanya's pretty active in general. He's usually fighting 3 to 4 months a year, or 3 to 4 times a year. Sorry, but the fact that this is happening in April, very interested to see what happens after. Because the middleweight division, depending on if Khamzat Chimaev, if he moves up, that kind of changes everything. Then you got 4 legitimate killers, and you got Paulo Costa. But thing is, Izzy's lapped everybody in that division except for AP, who's fighting for the second time. Now, if he wins again, you could make a case that they should run it back for a third time this year, probably in September, October, depending on how this fight goes or if someone gets knocked out. But I think if Izzy wins, you could very well make a case that they should run this fight right back, because everyone else in middleweight, Izzy's lapped twice, I believe. Aside from someone who might be like the sixth, you know what I mean? Like all the other contenders who they could pick that haven't, who've only faced him once, they're
everyone
lower
that
in the
matters.
They're either lower in the rankings or just not a good matchup for him. He'll wash him, So unless Chimaev moves up from welterweight and goes up to middleweight, then he could be a problem for either one of Izzy or AP. He's a monster. He's like. Damn, I don't even know who I'd compare him to. He's kind of like, you know what, Keenan? He's kind of like, I'll say Zion for his physicality. He's that much of a force in the MMA world. He wants to fight at welterweight, middleweight, and light heavyweight all this year. And guess what? He probably could. Crazy. He probably could. That's how much of a monster he is. That dude is a monster. Like he intrigues me more than just about any fighter in the UFC, and he hasn't fought in just about. Oh no, I think he fought in October. It was September. He fought against Kevin Holland. So he's going on about 6-7 months now too. So, but he intrigues me more than any fighter in the UFC. Truly.
Okay, I was interested in that just because I felt like it was such a quick turnaround, but it really wasn't. I guess that's just how time's flying right now, honestly.
Seems that way.
It just felt like, it felt honestly like a couple months ago that you went to that fight, but yeah. All right. Well.
Springtime. Listen, this was the Warner Brothas podcast. Keenan, great talking to you. We will be back next week to talk some NBA.
Absolutely.
Hopefully with a guest.
Absolutely.
And Keenan, great talking to you. I will probably review 287 next week. Hopefully Lamar is still untouched by this time next week. And I wanted to come in here last week, Keenan, and discuss. This was my plan last week. As you know, I'm doing an outro and I just interrupted myself. My plan last week was to come in on Tuesday and talk about Embiid Jokic, but Embiid ducked Jokic seemingly. But I think Embiid still is going to get. Actually, let me get that from you right now before we go. What's your power ranking now of the MVP? Give me a quick.
I would give Embiid 1, Giannis 2, Jokic 3.
That's exactly where I'm at.
I think it's fair. I think Giannis needs to get more consideration. He's been getting it as of late, but he's been like they might win 60 games again. So it'd be, and then it could be Giannis' third, but I think Embiid will win it just because of the fact that he's been second twice. He's gotten close. It's kind of like Harden. Harden deserved it. They won 65 games that year, too, so it wasn't like he didn't deserve it, but they got to the second twice and then finally getting over that hump and winning his deserved MVP that he definitely deserves.
Embiid deserves it this year. Wouldn't be mad at Giannis giving it, but if it's neck and neck and you got to give it to one, I'd give it to Embiid even if he didn't show up to the Nuggets game. And it's not even the fact that he missed the Nuggets game. It's the fact that I think it was the same day an article came out where he was talking shit about how much he shows up, how he doesn't stat pad, this and that. And then, it's Nuggets Sixers, which, by the way, I was revolving my whole day around. And then 2 hours before, Embiid's out.
Yeah.
Cool. Great. Thanks, Embiid. But, yeah, no, I'd have the same exact power ranking. Embiid 1, Giannis 2, Jokic 3 as of today. But I'm going to do this outro again because I interrupted myself.
Hold on.
Oh, my fault. Go again.
Hold on. I got you this time. I'm only going to say that just because I did shoot the first episode of the whole series, the top 15 MVPs since the merger. Fun. It was definitely very interesting. So go check that out. It's on our channel as well. And I will be coming out. One will be coming out every week on Monday at around 10 a.m. Monday. So we'll be dropping one episode per week for 10 weeks. It should be finishing up around mid-June, so around NBA Finals time. And none of these seasons will get on it because I already made my list, so they did not get it. But I've got a lot of MVP knowledge and a lot of season knowledge now, having to sift through 50 years of MVPs.
Yeah, I'm already ready to debate it, and I've only seen 15 and 14 in the honorable mentions, so I'm very intrigued to see what the rest of this list looks like. But I'm already ready to debate, so can't wait to see.
Absolutely. It's going to be, I was going to say, and anytime if you want to say, if we need to bring it up on here, if you see one, you're like, okay, Keen, let's talk about this. And we can talk about it for sure.
I am sure we'll react. I'm sure I will be part of one or two episodes, but I am positive I will have some reaction. Absolutely. That's for sure.
You were what?
I said I'm positive I will have some reactions. That's for sure.
Absolutely. So, I do have a question. Did you have a problem with 15 or 14? Just
no problems. I just need to see the rest of the list because I was very surprised not to see 2018 Harden on there and as an honorable mention. That's all. I thought.
Wait, you were surprised how low I had Giannis?
No. Well, that too, actually, yeah. Well, I need to see where the other Giannis season is. But Harden not being on the list, I was intrigued by that.
Yeah, that was one of the ones that I was like, people are probably gonna see and be like, oh, why is Harden not on that list? But
I gotta see
when you see the 15,
I gotta see at least up to 10 because it's a lot of years. So I gotta at least see up to 10, and then I can really talk my shit if need be. But immediately when you said, honorable mention 2018 James Harden, I was like, damn. And then you had Giannis. I don't know. I'd have to see the rest.
When you see it, it'll make more sense. I didn't realize how many great years there were. I mean, I knew how many great years there were, but I didn't realize how great. Yeah, I'm sure he was before the merger. He was after the merger, but I didn't realize how many great individual seasons there were until I went through and was in-depthly looked at them. It's like, okay, so I know Mike has 5 MVPs. I know Kareem has 6. I know Bron has 4. Magic has 3. Bird has 3. I know these guys and how many they have, and I knew that they've put up some numbers. But when I really looked into them, I was like, oh. And then obviously there's some of the one-offs that are like really good seasons too. I don't want to give too much away, but there's some of the like one-time MVPs where you're like, oh, that is a season. So it's really It'll be really interesting to see. I'm excited to. I want to just give it all at once, but obviously I like how I'm doing it. It's a little formats. They're going to be quicker videos, getting a couple out, going in depth on them, so you kind of builds anticipation for it as well. So yeah, absolutely. And you'll be on. I think I have it already planned out. The 2 that I'm going to ask you to be on.
What
I already have it planned out.
I guess you could. I guess you can't really say that because then you'll kind of give it away. But you can tell me off.
I can tell you. I mean, I could
tell me off the air.
I can tell you the numbers. It'll be numbers. I believe 11, 10, and I believe it's going to be 7, 8 or 8, 7. 11, 10, and then it'll be 7, 6. It'll be the 2 that I have you on for.
Interesting.
I don't need to know who, but yeah, those will be the ones.
Interesting. 11 and 12 is coming up very soon. Okay. All right.
Yeah. I was going to say we got 13, 12, and it'll be 11, 10 would be that one, and there'll be 9, 8, and there'll be 7, 6 will be that one. So it'll be 11, 10, 7, 6 will be the 2 that I'm in my head right now that I have for you.
Well, Keenan, congrats to you. Can't wait to see more. Can't wait to be a part of this. Can't wait to argue. One of my favorite activities. So, debate.
Absolutely.
We'll be signing off here. It's 12:30 over here. I'm going to get some shut-eye, as they say in the streets. So, Warner Brothas Podcast. Like, subscribe, follow, all that. We'll be back next week in full effect. Keenan, great talking to you, as always. You get some rest. Do your homework, whatever you're going to do over there. Esteban Ramos, congrats to you, boy. We're out of here.